Harvard teaching hospital is in hot water after revelations that at least 37 of its publications may contain false information. 4 top researchers at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston are accused of publishing false data in medical papers. Now the Harvard-affiliated teaching hospital is seeking to retract or correct some of the papers at the center of it all. And this is just the latest scandal sullying the Ivy League school's name. Let's bring in Sholto David, a molecular biologist who sounded the alarm on this latest scandal. Sholto, thank you so much for your time. This all started because you alleged irregularities in nearly 60 papers. What led to your discovery?
So I've been following different research misconduct, I guess, in papers across lots of different institutions, and I was led to this Dana-Farber examples just by following different papers and co-authorship relationships. So that was kind of how it was discovered, just following relationships between scientists and different papers that they've authored together, because I write a lot of comments about mistakes or errors in scientific papers.
So for those of us who are not molecular biologists, you've read so many of these papers. What type of information are we talking about here?
So I think most of these are errors to do with pretty simple kind of copy and paste mistakes. A lot of them, some of them more serious, but the copy and paste mistakes consist of if you have a figure in a scientific paper and you have experimental condition A and you have a photo which shows that, and then you have experimental condition B. You should have a different photo for the second condition, but you may quite often find that simple mistakes have been that it's the same photo in both figures, and it's a little bit more complex here with different examples, but it seems like quite a lot of these are just copy and paste, and then there are some more concerning examples where it looks like perhaps there's examples where some attempt has been made to conceal that the copying and pasting or splicing has been done.
And we're talking about a very well-known institution here. Talk about the significance of what this means if it is all in fact true.
Well, I think the fact that they've said there will be 6 retractions and 30-something corrections, it kind of proves that the points I raised are valid, right? They are going to go ahead and correct and retract a lot of these papers, but the remaining 17 or so are other institutions, so we'll wait and see what happens there, or the data is at other institutions, and there are about 3 papers where they kind of dispute the points that I've sent to them. I think, I'm a little bit reluctant to speak too much about what it means more broadly, but, from my perspective as someone who looks at scientific papers to find errors, I think there's probably more than people would imagine. More errors than people would imagine, even in papers from top institutions.
Obviously, you've done a lot of research, you've done a lot of digging. What does this mean going forward? Do you think we'll see this happen or happening at other top tier and even not so top tier research institutions?
I mean, this is a pretty broad problem in science, and one thing that's worth mentioning is that a lot of the comments that I've sent to Harvard existed already on the website PubPeer. So there were already public comments pointing out quite a number of these errors. Now, recently I came back and I looked again at a lot more of the papers, and I added a whole bunch more comments and basically questions about the validity of the data, particularly the pictures. So, one thing to note is that these accusations are often out there publicly, and they've simply been ignored for a long time. There are lots of similar ongoing processes at different universities and stuff. They just don't tend to be announced publicly.
Well, it looks like they are no longer being ignored.
Harvard President Claudine Gay is under fire yet again. She's now facing plagiarism allegations. The university says it's discovered instances of inadequate citation in her academic work.
Well, the latest right now is that President Gay is requesting corrections to her PhD dissertation, which dates all the way back to 1997. And some of the experts I spoke with say that there are very clear signs of plagiarism, while others say these allegations seem to be politically motivated.
It's the golden rule of submitting work.
Plagiarism is not acceptable.
And now the president of one of the most prominent universities in the country is answering to allegations of plagiarism.
It's fairly clear that Harvard did not perform that evaluation, at least not, thoroughly enough, because a lot of these definitely should have been caught.
after a review by the Harvard Corporation, which found several examples of inadequate citations in University President Claudine Gay's 1997 dissertation.
I think it's clear that it's plagiarism because it matches other works.
We, in some other organizations, looked at feelings of authenticity that are triggered by learning how others experience us. So in addition to us sitting down and reflecting on what makes us feel authentic,
there is an extraordinary scandal unfolding in the lucrative world of behavioral science. One of the stars of the field, Francesca Gino, is being accused of repeated, outright fraud. And in a deliciously ironic twist, you really can't make this up, she is said to have faked results in a study about honesty. An incredible story, humiliating for her employer, that would be Harvard, the blue chip companies that sought out her services, the mainstream outlets that routinely quoted her, and also further calls into question some of the blockbuster behavioral science findings of the past 2 decades. At issue is a 2012 paper authored by Gino and a number of other co-authors, which relied on the results of 3 different studies. Those studies purported to show that people could be compelled to behave more honestly if they were asked to sign an honesty pledge at the top of a form instead of at the bottom. However, a group of scientists that run a blog called Data Colada, they were able to demonstrate that some of the data used in the study had been tampered with, and that fake data had actually driven the results of that study and led to that finding. Now, the same group of crusading researchers, they had found manipulated data in one of the other studies that also drove that same blockbuster 2012 paper. So for those who are keeping track at home, 2 out of the 3 honesty studies relied on dishonest information. But that's not all. The Data Colada folks have since published additional blogs revealing fabricated data in 2 other studies in which Dr. Gino was involved, and they are promising one more. This has caused an earthquake in the field. She was both a star and she collaborated widely with other researchers. Her expertise has made her in demand as a consultant and speaker to some of the world's biggest companies and institutions: Bacardi, Google, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Disney, Goldman Sachs, Honeywell, Novartis, Procter & Gamble, and the U.S. Air Force, Army, and Navy, and as a source to media outlets from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. According to her website, she has co-authored more than 135 academic articles and written books, including 2018's Rebel Talent: Why It Pays to Break the Rules at Work and in Life. That's an interesting one, isn't it? She's also been named one of the world's 40 best business school professors under 40 and 50 most influential management thinkers.
Like, oh, sure, he went to Harvard.